Welcome to episode number 47 of Willing Warriors. We've titled this one Raising Young Women. Our previous episode was on raising young men. Just a quick summary. So we have 10 children. We have 6 of those are daughters. 4 of those daughters are married, and all of our daughters are lovely, but 4 of them are married now and raising or keeping their own house. Many are raising their own children. We have 2 left, so we're still in the middle of this and praising God. So we want to share some of those experiences, some of those things that we did right, some of those things we could go back, and hopefully provide some encouragement. In the earlier episode on raising young men, first thing we're trying to train ourselves, and we want to do this with encourage you this way as well. We don't like to use the word teenager. Teenager imparts somebody who has an adult body without the adult responsibilities or privileges. So we prefer to talk about maybe babies, infants, children, and then young adults. And so roughly thinking is talking somewhere around 13, 14 years old. And so we want to provide some encouragement when the young ladies hit that age of how you should be transitioning. So first off, fathers, you should see your role here. You are, or you should be, the number one man in their life at this time, right? Mm-hmm. You should tell them of your love. You should understand that they are becoming the glory of man, the beautiful part of man. You should speak of the way they set their hair, the dresses they have, the beautiful dresses they have. I know they're starting to blossom. They're not this thin rail anymore. They're becoming more curvaceous. Many men make the mistake when they see this happening to their daughters is they back away. And I'm going to tell you, these young ladies are in transition. Things are changing about them quickly. They're starting to realize the whole thoughts about beauty. And if you need to, Dad, you need to double down. They understand in this transition period, they're wondering about their own beauty. They see themselves often as knees and elbows. So keep assuring them of their beauty, of their loveliness, of your love for them, right? Show them the proper affection with hugs and kisses, appropriate compliments. Be seeking to win their hearts, and we'll try to expand a little bit more on that. But you are the number one. You want to be the number one guy in their life until the day you walk them down the aisle. So maybe you can address, as our young ladies hit puberty, you've kind of developed a nice tradition, and maybe you want to expand on that.
Well, so I think what you're referring to is when their hormones kick in and they start their monthly cycles. And if you're a man, you don't quite understand, but as a woman, I do remember that it's scary. You know, your body is changing literally, and you're not quite sure. So moms, make sure you have that talk with your girls beforehand so they know what to expect. But then also, because often that is a sign of fruitfulness. So we don't want them to go be fruitful yet, but it is a reason to give thanks and rejoice in the way that God has made us. And so a lot of time, I've always tried, Dad and I have tried to buy a ring for the girls. Some other people say, oh, you did the purity rings. And no, it really wasn't that for us. It was just a matter of, just an amazing act of God in the way he created women different than men, especially physically. And so, as a woman, some women have lots of other side effects that having monthly cycles can bring on, like cramps and headaches and nausea. And, it's just not fun. I'm just going to be honest. It isn't. But at the same time, I've always tried to encourage our young ladies is that sometimes it might not be fun. It's, messy and different, but this is how God created us. And it's wonderful that he has given you this gift. And so a lot of times we would get them like a birthstone ring or something to just signify their entrance into womanhood.
Yeah, celebrate it.
Yep.
So dads, as you're the number one guy in their life, right? There are some things that they will not understand. So they're 8, 9, and 10 years old. They kind of know boys are different, but they're
Right.
about the same height. They can run maybe the same fast, right? Maybe they talk, maybe they just act a little bit differently. But now they're 13, 14, 15, and there's boys 13, 14, 15, 16. Now they're starting to realize, yeah, there is some differences to them, right? So what are some things dads should be teaching their daughters? Well, let's talk about what Scripture says. They need to be teaching their daughters that men have flesh that burns, right? They need to learn that some of these men can be very foolish, right? They don't know how to control. Some men can be who are fools, don't know how to control their body. They have appetites for food. They like to sleep. They get too drunk, and they haven't learned to control their sexual appetites. They might be flatterers, right? They're seeking to win a woman's heart by what they say, all the right things, right? Why? If they have burning flesh and they're flatterers, they want to win their heart, so they have access to their body, right? So we have to be there and tell them that. Now, not all men are fools, but it's a safe assumption for the daughter to assume all men are fools until they prove themselves otherwise. I know it's harsh, but that's a safer assumption. The other thing that daughters need is dads to help them. So a daughter will say, but I don't want to hurt his feelings. They want to be, their natural skills are to being nurturing, to seeking unity, not to anybody that hurts their feelings. And you know what? Dads aren't wired that way. Dads are a little bit more binary. They are going to place protecting their daughter way above this young man's feelings who's a sexual predator, right? And they're going to be able to tell their daughter, stay away from that one. No, look at that. Look at that. And so dads need to have continually winning their daughter's heart so that their daughter is asking them for this advice about, what do you think about this one and this one? Well, he's a fool, right? He's a fool because he doesn't make his room. He doesn't have a job. He doesn't, whatever the biblical guidelines are in the book of Proverbs. So the book of Proverbs teaches it's a father teaching his son not to be a fool. The book of Proverbs, we turn it the other way then, and it's a father teaching his daughter not to difference between a fool and a wise man, right? So that's our biblical foundation, right? So maybe a side note, we covered this in an earlier episode. Here they are, 13, 14, 15. They're starting to see young men differently, young women, and starting to wonder about interactions, right? The world, unfortunately, rushes in and says, let's let them date. Well, we've covered this aspect of let's not stir up love before it's time, and how we should handle dating. It's in episode 21 if you want to look it up. Strongly encourage that. As I said, we've got, what do we have now? We have 7 married children. And so without dating, and so you can get married, and they weren't prearranged marriages, so God can be glorified. Maybe you want to talk about expectations with young ladies and mothers?
Well, yeah, as we talked about in our last episode, raising young men is, and you already mentioned this, I think, in this video, is that a 13, 14-year-old young man standing beside a 13, 14-year-old young woman there can be some major differences. Generally, I think the boys physically mature, get taller, fill out, a little bit later, and the girls have probably already started doing that. Also, a lot of times, no offense, please, but I think that the girls, mentally or emotion, well, I don't know about emotionally, mentally mature probably a little bit earlier than guys as well. So I would encourage moms, again, maybe try not to coddle, even though the young men, when they hit 13 and 14, they can start, thinking about some of those more long-term things. But whereas a girl, we make the mistake on the opposite side of the fence. We might, they look a lot more mature, they can act more mature, so we just expect a lot more of them acting that way. So, but we don't want to because then that provokes them to anger and frustration.
Exasperate them, right?
Yeah. So there's still, I would encourage you, Mom. I think back to when I was in 6th, 7th, 8th grade, and I'm like, oh yeah, I have a lot to learn. So we need to be patient and walk alongside them, answer their questions as they're learning in a little bit more mature way to talk with their own sex and with the opposite sex. To when we hear things, sometimes we might draw them aside and question and encourage them
Yep.
to think more, well, just to engage their thoughts.
Okay. So another role that dad will have is, as we think about some of the women in Proverbs, so it talks about the harlot and the harlot's loud clothing, and she doesn't blush, and so this whole concept of being modest. So dad, this is one of your jobs, is helping your daughter to learn how to be modest, right? So first off, she's going to learn how to be modest as she looks at the clothes that her mother wears. So let me say this right. Dads, I'm going to ask you to be brave. You have to, from time to time, tell your wife, dear, that is probably not as modest as we could be, right? And hopefully it's not very often, but you may have to say it. Women have some excellent radars of knowing how people are feeling, and this other. Men can be a little bit more discerning about where is that line. And by the way, I'm not measuring hemlines. I'm not doing any of that. I'm saying use your good judgment. Help your wife that way, and then help your daughters. So your daughter's going to see your wife, see how she's dressing. She's going to dress. That'll be her first example. The next place your daughter's going to look is your daughter has this young adult daughter has this incredible sense of wanting to belong. So those young ladies, still training myself, those young ladies of whom she finds herself interacting with on a daily basis, they too are going to set her dress preferences, right? It's always a joke when you see two girls going to the mall and they both get the same outfit, right? And so there's just a comfort in that. And so dads, you're going to have to step up. And first off, you have to see if the friends they have are setting a modest example, and then try to have that conversation with them and encourage them. If you've won their heart from the day they've been born and continue to win their heart, you can have that conversation, and it doesn't have to result in yelling and screaming. If you've shown up and you've been absent for their life and you parachute in and you tell them, that's bad, take it off, right? Then you are going to try to write a check, and there's no money in the emotional bank account, and they're going to just have nothing to do with you. So help them learn how to be modest, continue to win their heart, right? Help them not to be, and by the way, if you tell them, try to talk to them about loud behavior, not having this gentle, quiet spirit, and they don't respond well, then that's a really good sign that you have lost their heart. If you've lost their heart, doesn't mean you can't win it back, right? God, some of the last words in the book of Malachi is God has come, or the prophet Elijah, John the Baptist, has come with the gospel so that God would turn the hearts of the children to their fathers and the hearts of the fathers to their children. So this is one of the promises of the gospel. But if their daughters are not responding well to your comments, your critiques, your encouragement, you probably don't have their heart. You need to step back and focus again on winning their heart. And a few words about that a little later. So we have these young ladies in our house, and they're created to work as well. So sharing responsibilities, sharing a kitchen. You want to address some of that?
Well, generally we call that home ec, I guess. Yeah. But they see mom working. A lot of times that can come, as they transition into young women and have the ability to think a little farther down the road. And so if you're sitting around the table enjoying a fresh baked loaf of bread, Mama, we had one a couple years ago, I want you to teach me how to make bread. I want you to teach me how to make bread. Teach me how to make bread. This was almost a daily mantra. She was about 12, I guess. But it was in the middle of summer and it was so hot, and I don't bake a lot of bread in the summer because I don't like to turn the oven on. So the first cool day that I thought, oh, let's turn the oven on, I called her upstairs and I said, okay, I'm going to teach you how to make bread today. The funny response was, oh, I don't want to learn today. Can I do it? And I'm like, nope, we're going to do it today. And we did. But one of the things is I say, if I teach you the skill of how to make bread, and it's not all that hard, guess what I'm going to expect of you? I have to make bread. I said, yes. So not every day, but we do call on. And a lot of times she just enjoys making. She likes to try different recipes, give them some creative. So their older sisters have told the younger sisters, do your baking when you're at home because it costs a lot more when you have to buy all the supplies. Just wait till you have to buy meat, huh? But generally it's a joy. Like to buy or make or buy a nice apron and teach them kitchen skills, have them measuring out, using your fractions, learning how to multiply, divide recipes. Encouraging, Mom, can we have our friends over? I'm like, sure, but you have to plan it. I want you to come to me with sort of it doesn't have to be set minute by minute, calendar, but to learn the skills of planning and extending hospitality. So what is the activity? Who do you want to invite? This, that, and the other. And, and I'm often more than happy to pitch in. I might take them shopping so they can pick up the things they need, but I'm happy to, help cover some of the cost of that. But this is discipleship. This is walking along beside you. This is how you clean a bathroom. Don't assume people know how to clean a bathroom. You actually have to teach them the proper procedures and sometimes we just do a blessing. It's not a full scale ceiling to floor, but sometimes it's just go tidy the bathroom. That might mean, wiping down the sink and then, swishing the toilet and emptying the trash. Maybe that's all in a clean towel. That's not the whole 9 yards, but just to learn. So we talked about giving them a special ring. A lot of times, I might just take that specific daughter to lunch and just have a time to talk personally with them, to let them know, sometimes we have what we think are little struggles, but to them it can be like a mountain, learning how to, we're not just playing anymore. If they have friends over, not just playing, or even siblings, but all of a sudden, somebody said something and you've got to learn to work out and let love cover a multitude of sins. They've heard this mantra, this verse quite a bit, but now how do we live that? So really, especially mamas, and just from experience, because now you're raising, if I may use the word, little women, but all of a sudden, not only their friends and their siblings maybe, but also mom and dad, but mom specifically, because as a woman, you're living with another woman, albeit a young woman, but she's, forming her own thoughts and so sometimes there is some conflict, and you as the older woman should go lovingly and graciously to them and restore
if needed, right?
If needed, yes.
Yep. So let me come back to dads if I can. And so talking about dads winning their hearts. So if you get on the modern evangelical mentality is daddy-daughter dates. I'm not against this. But I want to say that we need more. We need more than that, right? We need more than just those token events. So first off, let's just be clear. Dads should be on a mission, right? Dads are on a mission. What are they on a mission for, right? They're on a mission to do something to build God's kingdom. They're working at a trade. They're bringing order. They're trying to provide for their family. They're trying to get their house paid off. They're on some kind. They're trying to lead a Bible study. There's some kind of mission that they're on. Well, whatever mission you're on, know that your wife and your daughters, right, assuming you have multiples, as you're out there slaying the dragon, taking the hill, that's your orientation, right? Ruling and subduing. Their orientation is towards you. You have to let them into your life. You have to let them know what you're doing. You have to have open conversations with them, and then you make them a part of whatever you're doing. Let them help you out, right? And provide them critique, provide them evaluation, let them know that their work is important, and have those conversations with them. This is the bonding time that they'll need. They'll know that they're valuable, that they're beautiful, that you love them, that you're enjoying life with them. They're not perfect. I'm not trying to make that out, but make them a part of your life. Show them the time and attention. Help, as my wife said, they're going to have struggles. And a lot of times, young ladies' struggles are relationships. Something like this. They have two friends, and the two friends aren't getting along, and they find themselves in the middle, right? So, or this girl likes this boy, and this other girl likes this boy. And so we have these multiple kinds of things going on. And so their struggles are real to them. Talk to them. Help them to understand those struggles. Don't take them seriously. Make them a part of your life. Continue to win their heart. If you've won their heart, then you can be of great encouragement to them. So having 6 daughters, we know they're not ball bearings, or as I say, they're all wonderfully created. So maybe talk a little about their different strengths and what we can do with those strengths.
Well, I think, as you mentioned earlier, and probably anybody that is a parent, and if you have more than one child, they are not cookie cutters, ball bearings, if you're a man, I guess.
Yeah, that's right.
But it's fun, it's exciting to see them develop. And, they have different strengths, different weaknesses, but to encourage them. If somebody seems to have a gift of art or playing music or writing stories or whatever, baking, cooking, or you see early on a gift of hospitality, they love to have their friends come and, encourage that. And, again, be praying for them. They have the gift of organization. Give it over to them. Let them coordinate the activity or, with oversight. If they have, and ours sometimes just want to develop new skills, which we try to encourage. So, I can't go out and buy all the latest and greatest in art supplies, but I can buy them a few new things to make it even more fun or interesting or sometimes they've gone through the stage of friendship bracelets, and you can buy a lot of skeins of yarn on various places for very little money. And it's fun to see them learning and employing different skills and gifts. So if at all possible, help by supplying, like we said, the baking. Okay, well, I can buy the supplies, and you make the dessert for Sunday or whatever. And maybe, so we've had a few that are more social. We have some children that tend to be more introverted and quiet and friendly, but not as outgoing with it. So, but then we have a couple that are much more the extrovert, and it is so amazing to see them, just include about everybody, and that's a gift that they have, but encourage that. But again, for each set of strengths, you sort of have another set of weaknesses to work through that, to pray for them, and just encourage them in the gifts and the talents that they have. And it's fun to see them develop. And even my young men, I remember I taught them how to make meatloaf, and I think we had baked sweet potatoes and corn, and took a picture of it, and I put it on Facebook and praised them because they truly did bless me, and I didn't have to make dinner that night. So, yeah.
So let's tie to that blessing a little bit. So the Proverbs 31 woman, a man and his children stand and praise her in the gates, right? So your daughter is not your wife, but there are great places to stand and praise her, not because she got out of bed early, right? Not medals, ribbons for participation, but when she's really taken something up well and you see her strengths and she's running with those strengths, right? Praise her. Praise her in front of others. Let the world know that you love your daughter. Even as you tell your son, well done, good and faithful son. Praise your daughter as she's multiplying her gifts, as she's bringing beauty to the world. She's helping to bring organization, right? And to know that each one of these are different and God has made them. It's interesting for us to look at that each one of them have different slivers or parts of our personality, and then how more accentuated they are. And so we're excited to see them, and we're excited to see then how God takes our young ladies, and they're running their own households, married, have their own children, their own husbands, and how that whole new set of families developing and what God is doing. So remember, it's by faith. Keep praying for these. So the battles with young men tend to be much more external. The battle with young ladies tend to be a little bit more internal, right?
Sometimes.
Yeah, more relationship based. So understand those, be in communication, win their hearts, protect them against the sexual predators, and then rejoice in that day. If it be God's will, and it is for so many of them, to walk them down the aisle and to hand them over to another young man who's got on a great trajectory so they can start their own families. It's all by faith. It's a work of God, a work of His grace, and rejoice that He has entrusted you with these eternal souls. Thank you for joining us. If you like the content of what you're hearing, please go ahead and subscribe. We welcome your comments. We hope to continue to publishing these videos on a once-a-week basis. Until next video, may God bless.